As usual, I got a little bit restless with my own video, so to say. It's I'm a little bit impatient sometimes, and so anyhow, I checked out some stuff in terms of Google News searches, and I found something very interesting that I came across in terms of the suppliers for Google News, or rather where Google News gets its news from and what is placed on top. And I hate to say this, but I think my initial suspicion may have actually been confirmed. Well, let's see what you think of it. I'm going to read you some stuff here from Google News Report USA, and this comes straight from Google itself. The top 25 news sources year to date as of May the 30th, 2007, are reported as follows. The number one news source, number one, was the New York Times. Now, of course, everybody knows that the New York Times is also behind a firewall for anyone who wants to read editorials, for instance. So in order to read it, you have to register, and possibly you have to pay in order to read that source. Number two was the Washington Post, which pretty much toes the government line, and these days has been for the last 8 years. So, that's not too surprising. Number three is the Houston Chronicle. Now, the Houston Chronicle does have some independent reporting going on, particularly regionally. Why it is number three for a Google source is very curious. Remains to be seen why that newspaper is so important to Google News. Fourth is Bloomberg, which is a news source, legitimate news source, but also with huge financial connections in the stock market, financial news, of course. Fifth is the Los Angeles Times, which also no surprise, rooted for the war from the very beginning. It is no longer an unbiased news source by any means. Sixth is Reuters, which is, a wire agency. I'm not sure. I haven't researched them too much. Who is funding them? Where they're getting their money from? Number seven is Forbes. Forbes is, as you know, a publication mainly put out for international investors. In other words, this is a publication for the financial elite. And this is number seven for Google News hits. For Google News that is reported at the top tier. Monstersandcritics.com comes in as number 8. I have not researched them, where their funding comes from. I have no idea. It's tipsy-turvy what they report. Some of it is a lot of fluff from what I've seen. But some of it is quite serious. So, my own personal opinion about Monsters and Critics is in its infancy, so to say. Guardian Unlimited. Guardian Unlimited is a publication from the UK, from England, and they score quite highly. They do have independent reporting, quite a bit of it actually, from what I've seen. And so that's, to me, that's probably a good thing that they rank at least at number 9. But number 10, and this, of course, is what I've been talking about in my last video, is Voice of America. Now, Voice of America is the official news agency of the US government and the State Department. And previously, and actually not previously, according to US law, they are not allowed to um, broadcast within the United States any kind of news because it is enshrined in law that they cannot do so. On the internet, however, they are free to do so. They just can't do any broadcasts over the airwaves. And so this is your number 10 news source, the top 10 news sources of Google. And next comes the International Herald Tribune, which, of course, in terms of international stories, they basically quote a lot of New York Times articles or articles from the Washington Post and from Forbes. So it's basically just an accumulation of what of the previous sources in the first three tiers that you've seen. And then next comes the Boston Globe. I know nothing about the Boston Globe. The Chicago Tribune, BBC News, which has been, BBC News is number 14. And BBC News has been deteriorating in terms of unbiased news for a number of years since they've taken on more commercial sponsors and programming. And it seems to be going towards infotainment, much like the German news, by the way. They're having the same problem there with their so-called state-sponsored stuff, independent stuff, which is no longer independent. Then next comes San Francisco Chronicle, CBS News, Times Online. And you know who owns the Times, right? I mean, do a little bit of research. And Xinhua, which is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Xinhua is a Chinese news agency. I mean, it's a government news agency. It's much like Voice of America, but for international news. So they get stuff out there. Then number 19 is the Wall Street Journal. Number 20, Wall Street Journal. Okay, number 20 is USA Today. Number 21 is Fox News. And then comes CNN, Seattle Post Intelligencer, and MSNBC. And then last, number 25 is ABC News. So these are the top 25 news sources that Google is consulting for your benefit of international news. So, it begs the question whether any other news agency from any other country is even considered in Google News, here in America at least. And why that is not the case. So, if it's all about algorithms and mathematics, with millions of people on the internet, billions of people on the internet, actually, it seems to be a little bit skewed to me. Anyway, do your own research and let me know what you think. Thanks.